SosMula is a rapper who is not often spoken of when mentioning the legends of SoundCloud rap, which to me seems like an injustice, as his musical style has actually helped mold entire genres in the New York scene. He's one half of the rap group known as City Morgue, but is often put in the shadow of his friend and collaborator Zilla Kami. This seems to mostly come down to the fact that not a lot is known about SosMula, so in this video I'm going to try and explain the unorthodox rise to fame that he's had. SosMula was born Vinicius Sosa in 1988, and holy crap, this guy's a lot older than I expected. I've also heard that he was born in 1994, but there seems to be conflicting opinions about this, so I'll just say 1988 as that seems to be the most common one I see. He was originally born in Brazil, living there throughout his younger years before later immigrating to Manhattan at the age of 8. His dad would get a construction job and his mom would open up a tattoo shop. His dad would work long shifts at his construction job, so he would barely see Sos when he was growing up. So Sos would end up spending more time at his mother's tattoo shop. This would keep him out of trouble a lot in his early life, but at the age of 12, his mother would actually move back to Brazil, leaving Sos to basically fend for himself. This led Sos to have a pretty hard upbringing. He would skip school as often as he could and started rolling with the local street gangs in New York at the age of only 13. Anytime he was in school, he would spend his time freestyling and honing his skills as a rapper. Sos was pretty talented at rapping, but he never really had the confidence to go all the way with it. This would lead his friends to give him the name Sos in grade 10, and it stuck with them. Along with Sos's love for money, he would combine the word Mula with Sos to make his rap name, SosMula. As time went on, his passion for rapping would start to fade and his passion for selling crack would start to bloom. He would get mixed up with the MBF Macabella family and start getting in trouble. But a more unknown part of the SosMula story is that he actually ran with the Rolling 40 Crips before he was MBF. He would join up with his friends Charlie C and One Shot Deals, and you can actually see Charlie in the back of the M80 video, and Sos even raps about being a Crip in his All Birds
my niggas 60s, they just turned me 40 up, bro.
freestyle back when he had his street rap style instead of his more well-known scream rap. This is also where he would meet his day one homie Woozy, and at the time Sos was going by the name Vinny Sosa and hanging with a group known as Rider Gang. This is where he dropped his first ever song, Glass House. It's crazy to think that Sos was actually rapping almost 6 whole years before Zilla Kami ever made his first song. Rider Gang was basically comprised of a bunch of Crips, and they were just an underground rap movement that was trying to make it big, but they never really went anywhere. Later on, One Shot Deals and Sos would actually have friction between them after Mula would leave the group and become a Blood, and that led One Shot Deal to actually drop a diss track on Mula. Mula would write and record a retaliation track, but didn't drop it for unknown reasons. Years and years later, the two would actually squash the beef at 2019 Rolling Loud. Sos had beefs with many of his past collaborators, but there's too many to name right now, but if you're interested in a whole video on that topic, I can definitely do that. But right now, let's head back to 2010 when Woozy and Sos would commit countless robberies together, making hundreds of dollars off of selling crack, and just in general, they were living high. That would all change at the age of 16 though, when Sos was caught with a gun charge. He managed to skirt jail time because it was his first offense, but around the same time, his friend Woozy was attempting to rob a liquor store and was caught by an off-duty cop who ended up shooting and killing him. This made Sos consider going straight for a short time. He worked with his father on his construction projects for about 1 week before deciding he couldn't work a regular job and headed back to the streets. At the age of 17, Sos would get caught selling crack, catching his second charge. The cops weren't so lenient this time though, and they would actually lock him up for an entire 18 months. This is where he would join the Eastside Brims under the Macabella family umbrella and become a full-on Blood. 18 months later, when Sos got free, he headed right back to the streets, getting locked up over and over for drug-related offenses. He would violate his parole 4 more times, eventually landing himself 11 more months in prison. After being released, the cycle would continue. Sos went right back to trapping, and the police actually ended up raiding his house and catching him with drugs. He would catch another gnarly charge and end up fighting this case for almost 2 years. Mula knew he wanted this to be his final jail term, as he was just wasting too much of his life in prison. He decided to move to Brooklyn for a new start to try to stay out of trouble. Sos would work at his mom's tattoo shop for a short time, and this is where he would meet his fellow employee. You may have heard of him before. His name is Righteous P. The two would quickly make a connection, and Righteous P would tell him about the rap group that he was creating known as Scum Squad. This involved his little brother Zilla Kami and the other rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine. Sos would want to get on board with this right away and actually ended up showing up as a cameo in the music video for Shimigami by Tekashi 6ix9ine. He was officially part of the Scum Squad, and they were ready to make a track including 6ix9ine, Zilla, and Sos all together, but before that can happen, 6ix9ine was locked up on a child predator charge. This would happen when SosMula would connect Tekashi 6ix9ine with his friend Tay Millie. Tay and 6ix9ine would make a track together and then immediately go back to SosMula's house to have a party. This is where they would run into the 13-year-old girl that they would take compromising pictures of. You can actually see SosMula appear as a cameo in one of Tay Millie's music videos. This would create some friction between SosMula and Tekashi 6ix9ine, as the whole situation happened at Sos's house with his friend. But however Sos felt about the situation at the time didn't seem to matter. Zilla Zilla P and himself would actually gather money together to help bail 6ix9ine out of jail. A couple months later, the group would prepare to finally drop their song together, Sinaloa. However, before that could happen, 6ix9ine and Zilla would actually fall out, leaving Sos once again snubbed. On top of that, Sos was actually found guilty in his ongoing trial for his prior drug offenses and spent 9 months locked up from 2015 to 2016. The timeline on this is a little weird. He was definitely there for the Shimigami music video, and then I assume he was locked up directly after, locked up around the same time as Tekashi 6ix9ine, and then they both came home around the same time to start shooting the Sinaloa music videos. Either way, no matter how it happened, Righteous P kept in contact with Sos the entire time he was in jail, and they were getting ready to make an even bigger movement once he was released. Even though the beef that tore the Scum Gang apart was mostly between Zilla and 6ix9ine, 6ix9ine wasn't above throwing a couple shots at Mula as well, calling him a fake blood, saying his dad was a crackhead, and even dissing him on his song Gummo. I'd say shout out SosMula, but I fucked that man's bitch, and we would all probably just think that this was just a random diss that 6ix9ine threw, but apparently 6ix9ine actually did sleep with SosMula's baby mother in 2017. At least that's what he said. Who knows if it's true. 6ix9ine would even get a couple guys to run up on Sos and try to fight him, but Sos didn't want to go back to jail, so he just fled the scene. Mula, on the other hand, barely spoke on 6ix9ine. He would retaliate one time against 6ix9ine in an Instagram story, flirting with Sarah Molina, who's 6ix9ine's baby mother. He was initially quiet on the subject, but Sarah would repost one of Sos's songs, and he couldn't help himself. So he may or may not have fucked Tekashi's girl. Who knows? He only ever spoke on 6ix9ine one other time on a No Jumper interview, claiming 6ix9ine stole his style. He didn't really have much to say though. It was more Adam22 trying to prompt him for a response.
It's crazy to think though that when we did that first interview that it was like the 6ix9ine thing was just this big looming, you know, like you guys were popping off at that time, but that he was so big at that time.
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple of years, he snitched. He went to prison for a little while, came out. Nobody really gives a fuck about his music. It's like that whole chapter just kind of like passed by, and you guys are still going strong.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, what's real is real. It is what it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he...
Anyways, back to 2016. 6ix9ine would leave the group behind and ended up taking the Scum Gang name with him. That would be the label that they had, and then the Scum Squad name would be the rap group that they formed. So he would take both of those names, leading Sos and Zula to have to rebrand. And this is where City Morgue was born. 6ix9ine's childhood friend, Scumbag Chad, would stick with City Morgue and start his own brand, Missing Since Thursday. This provided clothes and merch for the group. He's actually the one who created those iconic patch pants. Sos and Zilla began to drop tracks on SoundCloud throughout the year, dropping the visuals for Shiner 13 in early 2018 and appearing on the No Jumper podcast not long after. They would even drop a SoundCloud exclusive EP at the time known as Be Patient, but they would later take it down as at the time they were actually being scouted by Republic Records. They ended up signing to Republic Records under Righteous P's Sakari Ultra Flag, and they would release their first ever commercial mixtape, City Morgue Volume 1, Hell or High Water, in mid-2018. They would follow that up with a Volume 2 in 2019 and a Volume 3 in 2021. Between those releases, they would actually drop a tape known as Toxic Boogaloo. It was made exclusively to be played at shows, and a lot of the songs on the tape were actually disses aimed at 6ix9ine. After proof of him snitching came to light, the two would tour all over the country, getting on Grade A's tour with big names like Juice WRLD and Shoreline Mafia. They got a lot of their money off of touring, so when the pandemic hit, it really cut their bag off. The two had nothing better to do than record tracks in the studio. Sos would claim that he actually recorded over 300 songs in 2020. When Sos was able to tour again, he would drop his first solo project, 13 Songs to Die To. Followed this up with Too High to Die in 2022. As things stand right now, the future of City Morgue is unknown. It seems the group is starting to split off from each other, but that's not a bad thing. They don't seem to have any bad blood between them. They just want to focus exclusively on their solo careers at the moment. As in my opinion, it seems that Zilla always gets more clout than Sos. So that's the story of SosMula, a career criminal turned hardcore metal rapper. His style has definitely changed the scene forever, and I would even say Sos has broken into the mainstream at this point. It's hard to say where Mula will go from here, as a mainstream rap will probably never accept his trap metal style, but that almost doesn't matter because Mula's fan base is so strong and he's carved out such a good place for himself at the underground that he will never fade. It actually seems like his career is only continuing to grow at this point. He did his first solo show at the Gathering of the Juggalos and is actually getting ready to drop his next solo tape with big features from names like Riff Raff. So it seems like SosMula's career is actually growing by the day. I don't think anybody has to worry about him fading anytime soon, and we might see him even on bigger and bigger stages as time goes on. I for one am a big fan of the music, and I want to give a big shout out to the SosMula subreddit for helping me gather info for this video. They're real for that, and one of the coolest fan bases I've ever been a part of. They're super welcoming and overall just a really cool group of people to talk to. So shout out to them one more time. Shout out SosMula. If you like this video, leave a comment below of a knife if you watched the end of this video so I know that you did. If you really liked it, you can subscribe, as I'm actually trying to get to 500 subscribers and I'm very close to reaching that. But most of all, Thanks for watching. Bye.